Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another What's Up Wednesday. This is June 4, 2025. A whole new month is here. The year is halfway over, and we got an exciting show for you tonight. We got a couple of characters that I did not meet at the Florida RV Super Show in January 2025, but I met some of their team, and they've been gracious to come on tonight. Let me bring this up. Here they are. This is the co-founders. This is Tony and Darren of Remote VANS. Gentlemen, thank you for taking time out of your busy lives to be here tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Scott.
Absolutely. And Darren, we got to ask where you get your cool accent from right away.
Oh, I'm originally from South Africa, but I've been here for 10 years in the US and still haven't lost it.
I wish I could get one. I think you can make more money with an accent. Maybe I'll go to South Africa. They get an American accent over there.
There you go.
But just thanks for being here. Thanks for being on the live stream, ladies and gentlemen. Just want to remind the audience that the live stream is only good for this hour. I've stopped the live chat as a replay. So whatever we say here, while it's not private, it's only good during this hour. And if you can get your questions coming in, maybe you've never heard of remote VANS before, that's okay. That's what we're here to do tonight, is to introduce this amazing van that I did get to see in person at the Super Show in January. And while it's similar, it's very different. And I'm really excited to share the story. Here's kind of what it looks like. I still have yet, Darren and Tony, to get out there to the west. There's something about being on the east. It's really hard to go west and vice versa, right? So I just so love the west. What we're going to talk about tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is talk about remote VANS a little bit. Their philosophy, because it's really different, I think, than a lot of the adventure vans out there. So we're going to talk about that. They're going to get into the systems pretty heavily, off-road package, electricity, water waste, all the good stuff. Connectivity is a big part of their value proposition. And then we're going to talk specifically about some of the models. They've got 3 models, the Friday, the Oasis, and the Aegis. Did I get it right?
You got it. You got it. Yep.
And they're going to talk about building van community. That's what this is all about on What's Up Wednesday. And then we'll share on where you can learn, see, and buy one of these amazing rigs. So get your questions coming in. If you can help us out with the question format, you may know this. Let us know where you're watching from on planet Earth. That would be great. Let us know what your local fuel price is. And I talked to some of you earlier today, and there's been some wacky weather, tornadoes and what have you. So let us know what your local weather is like. That would be super great. And if you don't see the country map on a flag on the map, let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to put your country's flag, whether you're visiting or a resident of, on the map here. That would be super great. This is the format: 3 stars, 3 question marks. Help me see your question more readily. And if you have a comment that you want to be front and center, this is the way to do it right here. 3 stars, 3 exclamation points, and that will help us see it real well and get you on screen. Darren and Tony, let me just indulge for a moment and just kind of share some updates for the audience on some Go Small, Live Large events we got going. We got a lot going on, including our first Zoom of the month for our Patreon supporters, True Believers. That's this Saturday. So you'll be seeing that very soon. And then I'm really excited. We've never done this before. We're going to be, as a Patreon community, all Patreon members, free or otherwise, are welcome to join us on a Zoom. We're going to watch the Apple technology announcements that starts at 1 p.m. Eastern. I think it's 10 a.m. or whatever time it is in California. But Tony, Darren, are you guys Apple fans? You more Android, or what's the story there?
I'm all in on Apple.
Yeah.
I've got, when I look at my list of connected devices in my iCloud account, I'm always reminded how much money I've spent over the past. Apple TVs on every TV, HomePods in every room. It's great, but like, it's pricey.
But it enriches your life. And if you're not familiar with WWDC, that stands for the Worldwide Developer Conference. This is where they bring all the developers on the Apple platforms together. They actually bring them into California to the Apple Park. They stream the keynote, and that's what we're going to watch together. This is all of the Apple's technologies announcements. So we're really excited about that. Next week, our What's Up Wednesday is about pet life, van life. Do you guys travel with pets, Tony, Darren?
I don't. My last dog died a few years back, and but we have many customers and owners that do.
Yeah, it's actually funny enough part of our origin story. So I'm sure we'll talk a bit about that.
100%. Well, we just adopted 2 new kittens, really. So we talked about van life. A lot of, as you say, have a lot of pets with them. And I'm really excited about this. Next Saturday, the 14th, I guess a week from Saturday, is National Bourbon Day. That's really a real thing. So we're going to do a YouTube live stream. I discovered bourbon on the road. I'm going to get a few bottles out. We'll do some tastings. And what's any excuse will do to have a bourbon, right? Are you guys bourbon aficionados at all, Tony, Darren?
I do like bourbon. Yeah, we're in a good spot for it in Cincinnati. Yeah.
Hey, you're right there in the middle of it all. So we got a lot going up. I had a big fail with my campsite app workshop. So we're going to redo this on June 17. So you should be seeing notes about that. And we got a couple more great van brands coming up, Road Trek on June 18. And then we're going to do kind of a comparison, Eurovans versus USA Vans at the bottom of the month on What's Up Wednesday. So a lot going on. Just want to remind you that you can go to my website and get all the latest and greatest there. But tonight we're just focused on remote vans. Again, gentlemen, thank you for agreeing to this. It took us a few months to get us all pulled together, so I do thank you again. And we're excited to hear your story. So maybe just kind of tell us a little bit about yourselves. How did you get into this? Is this a van life miracle, or did you fall into it, or always been a tinker? How did remote vans get started? And maybe just a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I think it was a little of all of that, Scott. Well, first off, thanks again for having us. Darren and I have been looking forward to this all week, so it's great to be with you guys. Actually, I've got the comments going here, and it's great to see people already kind of pop in and say hi. So, hey to everybody, and thanks for spending an hour listening to Darren and I talk about what we've been building for the past 5 years. I could talk real quick, and then Darren can fill in the gaps. But Darren and I have been friends for over 10 years. Darren will get into kind of the business that he was in, but long story short, COVID was very impactful to both of what we do. So in 2020, we were looking for a new challenge, and I come from a technology. I was a programmer by trade, built websites and apps and that type of stuff. Got into venture capital. And Darren will go into as a background in overlanding. So kind of we married the two things together, and we started with one van. We picked it up, I think it was mid 2020, started working on it. And, both Darren and I are entrepreneurs. And if there's anybody out there that is also very entrepreneurial, they will understand that in some ways it could be described as a sickness. It's you can only see things through that lens. So it's, why build one van when you're going through the process and learning how to do it? Why not build 5 so you could pay for the one van with the profits from the 5? And if you're going to do 5, I mean, why not raise $500,000 and do 20? And so we started out custom, and then we'll talk more about our story, but kind of evolved into what we are now. So when people ask me like what our story is or how we got to where we've got, I always say it was like, it was very, very slowly and then all at once, because it does seem like you snap your fingers and, we're in a big factory churning out, the best vans in America. But yeah, Darren, if you want to fill in kind of from your side a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo that. I think so. My journey, very, in a nutshell, I left the British Army after serving there for many years. Went back to Africa and started a safari company. Basically held adventure rallies every year, invited people from, we were getting over 30 different countries represented, taking those folks around Africa, showing them all the best bits. And, we're pulling in, at the height of it, 180 vehicles, over 500 people traveling together on these massive adventure rallies. And, I'd always dreamt of moving to the US, from a very young age, and ended up in Cincinnati. And of course, COVID hit, and that all, shut down very quickly. And I think, Tony and I were living very close to one another during COVID, and both being entrepreneurs, used to working or running our businesses from a laptop, found it quite limiting. And so we swore we'd never allow that to happen again. And, Tony came up with the idea of getting a van and getting a dog and hitting the road. And at the time, I had been working on a vintage car, And I said to him, I'll jump in and help you build the first van. And kind of from there, it just very quickly went. We ended up getting 4 vans, and we sold them before we'd even built them. And then from there, it was just this massive acceleration into where we are today. Yeah.
Yeah,
Super.
and just because it's top of mind. We actually had we'll get into how we number our vans, but we had van number 1, our very first customer, Tom Rose, who is probably not on here. He doesn't seem like the type of person that's on a live chat. But after 4+ years, came back, had the van back, and he still has that 001 on the side, and it's fun to see.
Yeah,
that is super cool. And I saw Aegis number 151 in here.
Oh, that's the Woodrows. Yeah.
Oh yeah, right here.
Well, hey.
So I'm from Washington State, USA. Aegis 151. That's kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's serial entrepreneur, I think, is the phrase. If you just can't help yourself and find a need in the marketplace and find a reason to fulfill people's lives more readily, the van space is a great place to be. If you guys can just kind of share with us a little bit about your philosophy, because what I was really impressed with at the Super Show was, while they're kind of similar, they're very different. And I think your philosophy, if you look at your website, one of your taglines is work, play, travel, kind of not the other way around. And to have an adventure van kind of pull the thread on working, connectivity, the power, the comfort. Again, it's a little different spin on the van segment that's kind of the adventure van. So maybe just share with us your philosophy, working from the van. This audience, I see a lot of friends in here tonight have vans, so they either do remote work. Many of them are retired, but just kind of share with us your philosophy, how this got started and how you went down this particular path.
Sure.
Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, I'd say it speaks to very much our founding principles. When we basically Tony and I were looking for a van, and inevitably, we couldn't find the van that fitted the use case that we were after. We really wanted to find a van on the market that was capable of providing internet or comms. And there wasn't anything back in 2020 that was doing really efficient internet. So that was kind of the founding principle behind the communication aspect of this. And so, Tony, I'm sure we'll talk about the pillars of the company, but, in terms of the philosophy, we set out with quality being sort of the main driver on what we wanted to do in terms of a product, developing a product. At the time, during COVID, RVs really were suffering from a lack of quality. And so it is, for us, a very easy go-to, very easy North Star to follow, just build something phenomenal. Tony and I sat down and we said, well, how do we design and build the best adventure van in America? And then, so that's kind of where it started. Part of that in terms of philosophy is we looked at the market, and 99% of the van companies out there were very much focused on the off-road crowd. It had to be a van that had the biggest, best suspension. All the marketing photos were vans ramping big dunes and so on and so on. And Tony and I didn't come from the RV industry, so we came with a fresh look and a fresh approach to building a van company. And for us, I think it just meant looking at what is this hashtag Vanlife, and we coined sort of the phrase hashtag Vanlife 2.0, because we were seeing new people after COVID wanting to get on the road and get into vans. These were folks that I'm sure, much like us, were stuck indoors during the lockdowns and just swore never to have that limitation placed on us again. And it was like, man, you just realize how much you value the outdoors. And it's like, okay, how do I get outdoors as much as I can and really enjoy this? And naturally we gravitated towards, to vans, which coincidentally was just the biggest or the largest growing segment of the RV industry. So yeah, it's been a great ride so far.
That's cool.
Yeah, and Darren mentioned, we kind of focused in on these 3 pillars, which are power, comfort, and connectivity. And it really goes back to kind of building the van that we wanted. So, while there's quality throughout every nook and cranny of the van, we really wanted to make sure that when it came to power systems, like we put in absolutely the most power you can put in there. So you could run your air conditioner and your heater for comfort longer than any other company out there. And for connectivity, we started in 2020, we were doing a lot of PepLink, maybe a little bit of WeBoost, with roof mounted antennas. Obviously Starlink, just a couple years later has kind of changed the game there. But so, when that happened, we became the only van company, I think, shipping standard on every van, a high performance dish, so that customer just had to flip a switch and turn on the service, and they had, great internet anywhere they went. So, we're really building the van we want. Like I mean, Darren is probably more outdoorsy than me. Like I love the outdoors, but my version of loving the outdoors is a nice 3 or 4 hour hike. And then when I come back to my van, like I want to be comfortable. So I want the AC on. Like I want it to be 72 degrees when I'm sleeping, because I just sleep better that way. I want to watch a show in 4K on Netflix on my iPad, from the middle of nowhere. So you want to take all the comforts of home, and you just want to be able to kind of take that anywhere. That was kind of the goal.
Yeah, I think I can just add one last bit onto that. What was interesting was this Vanlife 2.0 person was suddenly doctors, real estate agents, bankers, just not the traditional folks who I would say, there are a lot of folks who are about to retire, who are retired, and hitting the road and loving life. I think it's brilliant. And I think we've seen a new introduction of young folks coming through, working professionals, young families. And so for us, it was like, hey, those are often the folks that haven't been a part. How do we bring them in to Vanlife and create a van that, really has all the creature comforts that they are looking for as well. And then at the same time, make sure our van was equally as capable off-road as any other van company that was putting on amazing suspension. So we went that route as well and put on the best suspension on the market. But it just wasn't the pinnacle or the main sort of advertising line, or marketing line for us. It was, hey, we've really put everything else that you want to have in the van as well,
Yeah, when I saw the vans at the Super Show, they're and you guys do Sprinter only, is that right?
Yep, Sprinter 144s. Yep.
So there's only so much you can do in a van, and while it's a similar concept, it was very different for me to get. What caught my eye was the work angle. And to have the connectivity from the get-go was pretty amazing. Many know my story, that when I started, that was my employer's CEO's mandate. Is like, I don't want to hear about not getting work or meeting missing meetings, because I didn't. And back then there was no Starlink, so I had like 2 Verizon hotspots and an iPad and this, that, and the other thing. And it was so by just eliminating I don't want to call them excuses, but just encouraging people to get on the road by eliminating some of those reasons that makes it tough is really smart.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your color scheme and your numbering. The branding was super different. Let me just put this up. We got some better pictures of it. This is at your factory, I think, in Cleveland, but it catches your eye right away, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
I love Cleveland, but yeah.
We're both Ohio, so what?
Oh, Scott, like no.
Fair.
Yeah.
And across the rivers, Kentucky, so I get it. Okay.
So I can speak to the numbers. Tony, you can, I'm sure, talk a little bit about the names as well. So the number thing goes back to the adventure rally events that I was hosting in Africa. Like you can see that each car would have its own number. And in eventing, it's all about trying to get returning customers year on year. And I was very fortunate to have folks coming back every year to do the event. It was just, human beings, just when there's an adventure and travel, people will come back if they have great experiences. And when you congregate with groups of like-minded people, where you have this love for the outdoors, love for seeing new things, experiencing new cultures, new foods, and new beers, people just will return and gravitate back. And what I would do is I would every time somebody came back, I would change something. So I'd keep their number, but put a different border around it. So, you know, if you had been back 4 times, your number was then silver. If you'd been back 5 times, we'd give you a gold one. And if it came back, you know, 6th or 7th time, then the number was enshrined, you were in the Hall of Fame. So, and you know, I said to Tony, hey, we got to number the vans. This is something that people will value. And you see it now, you know, people are very proud of the number that they've got. And for us, we numbered the vans in chronological order that they went down the production line. So, you know, if we build an Aegis and we build an Oasis, or a Friday and another Oasis, it's not in batches. We literally just number them as they leave the factory. They get their number, and then so it's That's unique to that. And yeah, I think it becomes really, people get attached to it, and it is cool. You know, it also gives us a touch point with our customers. You know, if you can remember the folks and you remember the van. So like for us, we know Tom is van number 1, and we know that the Woodrows are van 151. And, you know, we have so many that we just, hey, I remember van, you know, 63, and it's those folks that are in you know, that part of the country. And it's really nice for Tony and I to be able to, and for our team, to be honest, to connect with our community. You know, the Rolling Nomads, we call them the Rolling Nomads. And it's something very special that I think's a little bit unique to remote vans.
Really cool.
And Scott, yeah, just to touch a little bit, because you asked, I think, about like the naming of the series.
Yes.
So, you know, our aesthetic and our design aesthetic has always been a little bit on the futuristic side. You know, we did, you know, kind of the strip LEDs, and there's some, you know, angles in our aesthetic that I think our customers really gravitate towards too. So that kind of techie angle, we wanted to carry over into the naming of the series. So with the Friday, that is, if you're familiar with comic books or movies, that is Tony Stark, Iron Man, like his assistant after Jarvis, which many people might know from Avengers. And we're really going to nerd out here for the next, like, probably 3 minutes. So I apologize to your audience here. Was named Friday. So that's kind of, we want, you know, but also it works just as well as the type of van that, you know, you're taking out for the weekend and you're enjoying the weekend with, like, it's Friday. So, you know, so we always kind of look for a little bit of a kind of a dual meaning. So that's on the Friday. For the Oasis, if you're familiar with a book and a film called Ready Player One, that is the name of the artificial or virtual reality world that the characters inhabit. But also Oasis is a nice general term for a very comfortable place in a sea of potentially uncomfortableness, which is what all of our vans are. You can take them to the most, you know, in the middle of Death Valley, and, you know, turn on your air conditioner and be fine. So with the power system we have, so it fits that meaning. And then the Aegis, which is Greek for shield. The U.S. has a series of warships that are the most technically advanced and have all the radar and the systems, and it's kind of the be all end all of kind of just protecting you in any environment. So so that's kind of where we got to on the name. So they mean a couple of different things, but they all have technical kind of techie angles to them as well.
Yes, I love it. Let me just bring up a couple folks here. We got a couple questions. Again, if you can use the question format, 3 stars, 3 question marks. But we have to give a special shout out to Sharon. She's been a long time audience friend, and she has been on a van quest for many years. She just acquired her van this last year, and her bucket list thing was to get to Alaska. Apparently, she's at a rest stop, watching this at a rest stop outside of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Well done, Sharon.
On our way to Alaska.
I want to see pictures.
Female traveler, and we love Sharon. Oh my God,
that's awesome.
That is so awesome. Congratulations. And then Justin's got a question here, gentlemen. We're going to talk about models and some of the systems here in just a minute, but Justin wants to know any plans to do a model on the 170 wheelbase or perhaps a cutaway chassis.
Yeah, Dan, I'm happy to. I mean, right now, there's no current plans to do that. Obviously, we're always thinking of new stuff, but the 170 is an interesting market. I think we're very comfortable with the 144s, but there are some great 170 builds out there if that's, you know, what you need.
Fair. All right, let's talk systems, because to me, it's what makes the van really a motorhome, right? So let's talk about the off-road package. You mentioned it's part of your package, but it's meant to go a lot of places, be on the road. It'd be kind of interesting to do a survey with your really beefed up suspension. How many times have you actually been off road more than just a logging road, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what makes up the off-road package, and probably electricity. You mentioned a very powerful system there. What give us a little lowdown on those two first.
I can speak to the suspension system. I'm sure Tony can jump in on the electrical. So we use a Van Compass suspension on our vans. And here's the interesting thing. It's not always a suspension system specifically for off-roading. It's actually a suspension system for off-road and on-road. The beauty of a Van Compass system is that it's fully adjustable. Your fully adjustable shocks, if you have the Oasis front and rear. If you have the Aegis, you have the inclusion of the rally strut as well. And the Friday Oasis and Aegis all have a heavy-duty leaf spring at the rear. So, these vans have come such a long way in the last couple of years. The lithium-ion batteries they're enormous, and the amount of weight that they add is huge. And so when we set out, we looked at the market. There were so many other builders that did very little to the suspensions, despite having really heavy battery systems and water systems. And we just said, hey, from a quality perspective, we're going to put, and a safety perspective, we're going to put a heavy-duty leaf spring as a minimum on every one of our vans to cope with that extra weight at the back. Now, the beauty of a Van Compass system is that you can set it for off-road, a softer ride for off-roading or gravel roads, and then you can tune it in a bit of a stiffer ride for on-road. And, I remember driving, we did a drive from Cincinnati to Florida to Texas, and then back up to Cincinnati. We did about, 4,000 miles in 5 days. It was insane. And it was so incredibly noticeable, the change in ride when you set it to the stiffer setting. Like, most folks will take a Van Compass setting, put it on number 2, which is a balance. You have an option of 1 and 3, and they'll set it on number 2 and think that that's the happy medium. And the reality was, like, with a heavier van, you do need to crank it to 3 and get a stiffer ride. And it is most noticeable, I think, when you're driving on the highway and a big truck passes you, one of these big 18-wheelers, and that wind from the back that buffets your van. If you don't have a suspension, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You get thrown around a bit. And so that Van Compass system for us, like, man, it just, even on an on-road, it just changed the whole experience of driving. And so that's why we do it. We want to have that, like, superior ride for all our customers.
Yeah, when it comes to the power system, so on every van we've shipped over the last year, we've got a 51-volt Lithionics power system. For I always put it down into like 12-volt stats, because a lot of people are used to that. But it's about 1,400 amp hours at 12 volts. It's obviously less at the 51 volts, but it's 16.8 kilowatt hours. So it is. I think I have not seen in a production van a power system larger than that system. So, we put in all this power, packed it in there. But then, Darren and I kind of went a step further. It's like, well, all the power's in there. It's great. We, got the 3,000 watt inverter, Victron, all the highest quality stuff that you can put in the van. But what are you actually doing with that power? So when we pair it with things like a 48-volt native air conditioner, you really start to optimize what you can do with that electricity. You can make it 3+ nights off grid with your air conditioner without having to worry about charging up. But we've got a high powered secondary alternator for that anyway, so usually don't have to worry about that. But we just try to think through making the most efficient van possible everywhere, so that electrical system, as massive as it is, with the extra insulation and all the stuff that we do because of the quality of our builds, it maximizes what you can do with that electricity as well. So that was a big focus for us.
Yeah, and that's really good thinking. So I've got a 2018 Winnebago Travada with a Volta system. So I got about 8,600 watts of stored power, but because it's insulated so badly, They've gotten better. It's not an adventure van, but you can have the most robust AC and battery system, but if there's no insulation, you'll never offset the heat sinking of the van.
Yep.
So I'm glad you guys are using a total system, because that's really what it is. It's a total system. We love to talk about toilets. Potty Talk with Scott. So what kind of a toilet system do you use? And maybe just give us the water, the waste, and the toilet 101.
Yep. So we use a Thetford cartridge toilet, which I know, folks, it's not the most popular thing, but sort of the practical aspect of it is we know that, 90% of our customers are, they're on the road 3-4 days at a time, and the onboard cartridge toilet really just becomes almost like an emergency toilet. They're stopping, along the way at, roadside, and, stopping for gas and stuff like that. And so it hasn't been amongst our customers, it hasn't been like the main focal point. We obviously have had folks who are like, hey man, can I change it out and put a different one? Absolutely. But for the way that we've designed it to all be encased inside of our collapsible shower. And so the shower acts as a storage for both the toilet and the shower system. So it's not in the way, and it can be taken out when needed.
Well, it's that toilet, cartridge toilet.
Cartridge toilet. Yeah.
Cartridge toilet. Yeah. So the Lavio dry flush is a popular one also, and the Separate Tiny. I got the chance to use that. It's a waterless one. That's probably my most favorite. Funny, the cartridge toilet is one I've not tried yet. Now, many in this audience have one and say it's just fine. But I'll take their word for it. I've not tried that. But
we're just talking as well, like on the water. You're talking about the water systems and stuff like that. That's in every aspect of designing a van. We've looked at the individual components and tried to one up. And the water system as a whole was one of those areas. And I think I'm so glad you brought up the insulation part, because that is like a core thing for us. If you get the insulation correct, then you will find efficiencies in every other aspect of your van, whether it's electrical or plumbing as well. So, I think when we set out, we said, hey, what's the best thing you can get? And at the time, that was PEX-A brass fittings. And you've probably heard, and your audience have heard all the stories about folks who buy a van, and what's the first thing that they do? They go and rip out all the plumbing and remove all the plastic fittings and then replace it with brass. And so we listened to folks when we were designing the van out. Said, like, what are the really important things to you? And the overwhelming feedback, I think, on the water side was, hey, you got to use really good pipes, and you've got to use really good fittings. And that's what we made the standard for our vans. And you couple that with really good insulation. And so, there's every single one of those aspects. I always say to folks that it's the sum of all the tiny little innovations that truly gives you the most innovative product at the end of the day. It's not always like just one big innovation that sets you apart, but it's all the little things combined, And
they stack upon each other, right? And I always like to, we do a lot of van tours on this channel, and I like to look behind things. So what's the plumbing and what's the electrical look like? Because to me, that's all you need to know about how well that thing is built and organized. And to your point, it feels residential. And it means that they've done their work.
We would love for you to be able to look. Our electrics lead, Kyle, comes from industrial electrics, and like I sometimes ask him, do we really need to spend all the extra labor to label every wire everywhere? And it's he's like, well, that's the only way I've learned how to do it. So he would if you take that panel off, every wire is so neatly put in its place, and it's got it's labeled, and it's just it's perfect. And then I'm glad not to stack on the insulation thing, but the insulation is only strong as the weakest link. So you're looking behind the walls comment made me think of things like I don't know of another production van company that takes the time to drop the headliner in a Sprinter, which actually you have to move. It's very labor intensive.
Yeah.
But most of your road noise comes from the big forehead on a Sprinter. So not only do we put thermal insulation there, we put acoustic insulation in there, as we do everywhere in the van. So it makes our vans super quiet, insulated everywhere. And when you pair it with like the air conditioner I mentioned before, you can't have an efficient system by having it only 80% of it being efficient. Like you have to make all of it efficient to maximize the returns.
100%. We got a couple comments and questions here, so get them coming in for the team. So this is Eric. He says in a comment, did the VC 4.3? I have no idea that on his. So he's got a
van compass.
Big difference for highway driving. So this is a suspension situation.
Yeah. So
that's what we use. Yep.
That's the same suspension that we put on our Oasis series. So yeah, big fan there. He knows exactly what I'm talking about when I say that van now sits behind a big truck and you don't have to panic that you're getting buffeting.
Yep.
Eric, cool cat. He kind of geeks out on this stuff. He's huge into trains, planes, and automobile museums. Awesome. He's going to come on as a guest. Eric, I owe you a note. Here's Justin again. Are the vans 4-season with tanks inside or insulated, heated outside? That's a good question, kind of around the water. Gray weight.
So yes, our vans are 4 seasons. I think that is one of the areas that we focus on so heavily, because a lot of our customers, a lot of folks live in the southern states where it gets extremely hot during summer, and a lot of our folks love to go skiing during the winter. So you have and live in the van while they are skiing. So it's super critical that we get our insulation right. So to answer that question, the gray tank is on the outside of the van, obviously, but it has got a glycol loop that wraps around it. So, with that, as long as you're firing up your furnace every now and then and getting that glycol nice and hot, or, you will keep the gray tank thawed out. Obviously good general maintenance of an RV. If you are in freezing temperatures, you never want to be carrying a lot of gray water. You want to try and get rid of it so that it doesn't freeze into a block and expand and crack the tank. But on the inside, the freshwater tank is, it's not insulated per se on the actual tank itself, but the walls are fully insulated. We pack tons and tons of insulation in there. And we've also got, glycol lines running through there as well. So we try and keep it all really warm. We are slightly different in the way that we build our water and power housing systems. We build out of aluminum. So it is often, you would get metal, it's a metal enclosure, but we ensure that there's like barriers, thermo barriers between the skin of the van, which is where all the cold and heat transfer takes place. And that's very easy, because if you have metal on metal, that cold will come straight into your van and it'll affect everything that's touching metal. So we make a big point of thermo barriers everywhere and break it so that you don't have that transfer of cold.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about my van. Her name is Lily, and it's iterative process, right? And just going for the creature comfort and having everything with you all the time in a van is what makes, I think, the van so special. Whether you're off-road, I'm not the off-road kind of guy. I like to find a small town with some cool architecture and some great history and a saloon, hopefully, and do some street camping. But I want all that stuff you just talked about, right?
Yeah.
So it's super important. You'd mentioned, let's just talk about connectivity and some of the customizations, and let's just go through some of the models, even though we showed them already. But
Sure.
just tell us how your connectivity program works, and then if I want a different toilet or something, or I want to move something around, is that possible? Some of your controlled custom.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about the connectivity. I mean, it's really straightforward. Every van we shipped since last March has had a Starlink high performance dish on the roof. It's all, the wires are hidden and everything is mounted nice and clean. And basically, when someone buys one of our vans, they just have to download the Starlink app. In the paperwork they get from the dealer, they'll have a little, it's called a KIT code, KIT code. They just put it into the Starlink app and activate the service. So, there's even a power button for it on our proprietary Pennyworth control system to just, turn it on and off. So you can be online on Starlink in literally 5 minutes from the time you roll out of the dealership and be streaming, anything and anywhere. I mean, literally in the world. It's like it really did. I'm preaching to the choir, talking to your audience, but I mean, it just changed the game massively. Yeah.
100%. We were actually, there's quite a few of us that were outside of Los Alamos, no, it's Taos, New Mexico, and we found this. It was like a national park or forest, whatever, down this ravine, and I had great cellular connectivity until we started going down the ravine, and by the time we got down by the river, nothing cellular worked at all, and Starlink saved the day. I think there was 4 or 5 vans, and Justin will probably correct me on this, but we had something like 18 devices connected to one Starlink because we were starving for connectivity, right? It's just it's an amazing thing. Just talk briefly about customization. So if we, and I'm sorry, I don't have any really good shots of maybe this one kind of some of the interior shots, but if you want to have different colors, what's a type of customization somebody could do if they want to do something differently?
I actually saw a photo today from one of our customers who has an Aegis, and they've, heavily customized the van to work for them. So I know that, one of the things that we're known for is our Vanlife seat. We invested a huge amount of money in developing the only production level seat in a van that can rotate 90 degrees. That meets all FMVSS standards. So we developed this really great seat, and I saw this picture today of one of our customers who'd removed the seat and had turned the whole area into a bench seat. But they've also, the beauty of the way that we've designed the van, we have put L-track everywhere throughout the van. So there's L-track right behind the driver's seat, by the shower, underneath the cabinets. There's L-track on the rear power and water boxes. So in terms of the opportunity for a customer to customize the van to work for them, it's how long's a piece of string. We have folks who are huge into mountain biking and on racing bikes, and I've seen all sorts of setups where they've got their bikes in there and they've got extra drawers connected to the L-track, and they've got extra clothing and all their biking stuff. I've seen guys go surfing. And, I've seen guys set up their coat hangers in the shower to dry their wetsuits. It is the world's oyster in what you can do in these vans. And we certainly have taken the approach to try and make it as easy as possible for folks to do it. Obviously, we're a production company, so we don't do customization in the factory and tailor, vans to be unique to the customer. But I tell you what, this world, the amount of accessory companies out there, and you can pick anything you want, whether it's a second desk in the back or a whole new kit or gear to mount bikes. Everything's there for you.
We do offer, just to build on that, and we do offer limited external, internal things when it comes to colors. So Darren's absolutely right. You can't change the floor plan, but when it comes to colors, they vary by series. And even within that, you can have we have a dark mission standard, which is if you don't like a color, you can make it all kind of blacked and grayed out. So a lot of customers kind of like that. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it's pretty much nothing can be customized.
Yeah. That's cool.
As you can tell, all of our naming conventions are very, very geeky. They're very much to our passions. We love tech, we love movies, and we love all these things. So, Dark Mission was one that that they came up with in the office. And the minute they said it, it was like, oh, that's the one. It's such a cool name. Dark Mission for our more subtle, and a lot of folks in the van industry do prefer not a loud color scheme, but they want a more subtle van. And so, we nailed it on that one.
Yeah, they're really handsome. I'll put this back up. We got a couple questions I want to bring up.
Yeah, it looks like we have I want to give a shout out to Unredacted. They seem to be a big fan.
That's what I was going to bring up. And then we got Bill and Joe.
But but don't laugh at Bill and Joe. That LOL is not sanctioned by Darren and I.
So this is something I heard from folks at the Super Show. So as Unredacted says, I love these vans. As companies built them right, they took the Storyteller Overland up and improved the efficiency and bigger tanks, storage overhead. Great job, guys. So they're just at a blush, just walking by, you say, oh, that looks like a Storyteller. except for some of the aesthetics, like you mentioned. But to this person's point, you guys really took it up another notch. So congrats. Do you get a lot of comparisons like that, or is that even a fair situation?
I think we've heard it before. I think we're just privileged to be in the fastest growing segment. The Class Bs are where it's at, and there are great companies out there that make great products. One of the things that we don't come from the RV industry, so we've had to learn everything from scratch, and evolve so quickly with the materials we use, with the things that we put in the vans. But the governing thing in the industry is obviously the RVIA, and there's set rules on where things can be. And when you follow these rules to a T, you inevitably end up with similar floor plans that you see in all of these great vans, the Revels and that outside van. And everybody kind of has the seating in the same place. Everybody kind of has the hydronic system and the water and power, because the rules tell you must have your water connection and your power connection on the driver's side of the van. Your creativity really needs to come out in the individual components. That's why I always harp on about this and say the innovation is in all the little things. If you take the power system, how do you create the most efficient power system in the industry? How do you do that on the water? How do you do that in your AC and your fan? How do you do that with your shower? So that's why we came up with the Cyber Shower, the first production van with a recirculating shower, because our customers came to us and they said, you know what, it's really crap when you come off skiing for a whole day and you've got 20 gallons on board and you heat up the water and all you can have is a minute and a half of showering. No human being is happy. You're grumpy as hell. And so it's like, okay, we need to fix that. And I was like, okay, well, I've seen this in Africa before. How about recirculating the water until it cools down? And so we had to design the system to do that. And all of a sudden, you've created like a feature that no other van company has that's innovative. Now all of a sudden, your onboard 30 gallons you can shower 4 or 5 people. If you've got little kids, have your shower, pop them in, recirculate, and let them sit in the hot water for a couple of minutes. So it's just these little things that we wanted to do.
Cool.
Yeah,
that is super cool. Yeah, that was. I'm glad you brought it. Unredacted says that was one of the great things too, was the recirculating shower. So big fan. Let's talk about the community a little bit. So you called them
rolling nomads.
Yeah. Rolling nomads. So talk about how you approach the community thing. Is it organic? Do you guys promote and sponsor things? One thing we talk about on this channel all the time, it's as cool as the van is and the places you go, it's about the fellowship that the van community exudes, I think. And how do you guys kind of promote this and bring it together? Maybe even got a rally coming up or something like that. I don't know. Tell us about your community.
Yep. So the interesting thing about buying a van is most people will start looking for a van nearly a year before they purchase it. So really you're looking to forge a relationship with folks with your brand, with your van, way before they ultimately purchase a vehicle. So community is incredibly important. We're now at a stage where our vans are really popular. Our community is growing rapidly, and a big focus of the year ahead for us now is to get out there on the road with our community. And so we're at all the adventure van shows this year, the overland shows as well. I mean, we're going all out to really just interact with our existing customers, bring them together around the fire, share a beer, share a meal, and just get together and tell great stories about being on the road together, and go and share cultures and food together. And so, we are sponsoring a new adventure rally later this year, which will be called the Valhalla Rally. And so there'll be multiple of these throughout the year. And I believe that the first 2 will be this year, going from California to Oregon. And then the other one will be from Vegas to Vail later in the year. And these are great opportunities. You don't have to have a remote van. You don't even have to have a van. It's just to bring folks together. So if you've ever wanted to get into van life and be a part of the community, or you have a van already, and it doesn't matter what brand or make, here's your excuse, get on the road. And I've said this before, I really believe that in America, you just have to give folks the opportunity, the excuse to get out and come together. And then once they come together, you can't get rid of them. They want to stay and they want to do things together. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
So awesome. That is so awesome. We just had a Patreon potluck at our place, and it was a fun evening. And one of those attendees, I missed his question here. This is Bill and Joe. Are the van RVIA certified for financing insurance? That you kind of alluded to that, but I'm guessing.
Yep, 100%. Yep.
Perfect.
Little gold sticker on every van that goes out of the factory.
Yeah. Yep. So we've been growing a dealer network across the country for the past 18 months. It's been like this big shift that we did, coming from custom vans and moving into production vans. So it's incredibly important for us to set up a dealer network across the whole country, and that's what we've been working really hard on and continue to do so. So purchasing a van at any one of the dealers that our vans are at, you obviously have access to the financing and everything.
I saw also in here, shout out to Wayne, who's one of our techs, who's in the,
Mr. Walters, thank you, sir. That's great. Learn, see, buy. We like to talk about this. And you got some great campers in I've worked with over the years. And if you go to their website, remotevans.com, they have the map there, right? And they're kind of all over, which is pretty cool. What about online forums, YouTube channels, social media, influencers? You guys into all that stuff, I'm assuming?
Yep. We have a really active Facebook group called, coincidentally, the Rolling Nomads. And we're super active on all the social channels that everybody, Instagram especially, though I think we do Threads and Twitter and
everything.
All of them. I think, we're most active on Instagram. I don't TikTok. I haven't done any dances, but
no.
I will if need be. Okay.
You're showing your age, Tony.
Yeah, and I mean, our YouTube channel is growing as well. We're it's a really big focus for the year ahead, is to tell our story, create all the tutorials and all the walkthroughs of each one of our vans, and that's all stuff we're working on so hard at the moment. So yeah,
it's cool.
Tati just came on too. She's our service and warranty manager. So
fantastic.
And hopefully not half of the people listening to this are the people that work at Remote Vans, but that would be great too.
It's all good. And you'd mentioned back to the where you can see these. So dealers, expos, you mentioned that. Maybe we can get ourselves. I just ran out of time at the Super Show. It's just such a crazy time to get a video with you guys there. But maybe we can. There's a couple of Florida dealers. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. So campers in 2 cities, Jacksonville and Leesburg, which is like south of Ocala, like kind of by the villages.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Of course. Maybe what's the purchase process like? Is it through a dealer only? Can they buy factory direct? And then tell us about the pricing. We showed the pricing a little bit earlier. Is there kind of this MSRP? Then there's a retail, and is it transparency through pricing? What's kind of your story there?
Yeah, happy to talk about that. So we sell only through our valued kind of RV dealers, with Campers Inn kind of on the East Coast, Vault RV in Texas, Happy Days in California, and then Johnson RV, which is in the Pacific Northwest. All really, really great RV dealers. So no matter where the leads come from, we filter them through one of those dealers. However, we do offer a factory pickup option, which many people have taken us up on. So you could work with one of our dealers from anywhere, fly into Cincinnati or fly into a dealer, drive off, but we always love to have people at the factory. So we've had many people that process the paperwork through the dealer of their choice, and then come to us to pick it up. And then you mentioned pricing. We have a see-through pricing model. So the prices that you put up there and the prices that are listed on my website, every single dealer in the country sells a van at those same prices. So that's our, for our 2025 series, those are the see-through prices. So it doesn't matter where you go, you're going to get that price. So we think that just works better. I just hate I don't know, like Darren has mentioned a couple of times, we didn't come from the RV industry. So I know the old way of doing things is like price it super high and make people think they're getting a deal and, wheel and deal and all this stuff. It just seems so much straightforward to us to be like, this is the price. Everybody gets that price. Like
you don't have to feel bad about haggling. It's just like, that's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Focus on making the dream come true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I preach to the choir here, kicking a dead horse, but I don't understand why a van is on a manufacturer website starting at $225,000, and you get to the dealer at 125. I'm like, are you doing anybody a service by scaring your customer to death for the price that they'll never? It's just, I don't know.
Plus,
so good job,
plus you just don't. I mean, it always. I mean, I think COVID was a great example of when that type of old school pricing breaks down, because you had people paying inflated prices for just 12 to 18 months later, the values cratered because the supply, manufacturers got greedy and supplies out there, and then the price cratered. So if I'm a buyer, I paid something $200,000 for something that now other people are buying for 120. It just, quite frankly, I mean, it just maybe pisses some people off. Like, I just think it's a better way of doing business, that you just set the price and that, it's anyway. Aaron and I just, we try to do things the right way everywhere. And this was definitely a place to do that.
And this is what Unredacted is saying. I do not work for you. I'm just calling out great companies when I see them. Just passionate. Thank you, Redacted. Unredacted. Thanks for being here tonight. Well, gentlemen, just say we're at the top of the hour. I mean, it's really been an amazing. These hours always go fast. It was great to meet you virtually for the first time. I'm excited to see what we can put together over the next year. And man, keep me posted on your upcoming events. Because we'll love to promote those. I just love to see people getting in their vans. I mean, Sharon is the poster girl for being with us for a couple of years. And then she finally bought a used Travado, and her dream was to sell her house. She finally got all her stuff out and sold the house. Now she's on her way to Alaska. She's in Canada now. And we just saw her, 6 weeks ago up in Gainesville at a roundup. So it's people like that and everybody in this audience, and people like you. It really takes, it takes a village. It takes the builder, it takes the promoter, I guess that's me, and the person to really come together to make these life changes happen. And just by building a good product that helps people achieve their dreams is not easy. It's not cheap, but it means a world to a lot of people that I don't get too emotional, but it's hard work, and your work pays off because people understand that once they get their van, they're like, this changed my life forever. So thank you for doing what you do.
So, I mean, that's exactly why we do it. It's exactly why we do it. We've got to, help people to live their best lives, right? So
100%. Well, we still have one because you never know. Yeah, right. So, gentlemen, you stay right there in the studio on the live.
Great.
Thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thanks, everybody.
If you're not already,
especially our owners, employees. Appreciate everybody coming out.
Please go back to work.
Or
go back to happy hour, one of the two.
All
right, Darren, Tony, stay right there.
Great.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week and on Sunday.
Yep.
On Saturday for somebody. Peace.
Yeah. See you guys.